Hi and welcome to another 5-minute maths video. Today we're going to be taking a look at multiplying surds. Before you watch this video, you might want to make sure that you are comfortable with simplifying surds. If you're not quite sure with that, take a look at my other video on that before you try this video. So looking at a few examples then, when we're multiplying surds we need to be using the rule that root A multiplied by root B gives you the square root of AB, where A and B are multiplied together. So looking at the first one, we've got root 5 times by root 3. So this is the same as the square root of 5 times by 3, which is root 15. At this point, you always want to make sure that your surd is in its simplified form. This one already is, so we're going to move on to the next question. So again, looking at our multiplying rule, this becomes root of 3 times by 6, which is the root of 18. Now this surd can be simplified, so it can be changed into the square root of 9 times by 2, which then becomes 3 root 2. Looking at the next one, there's actually two ways to do this. I'm first going to do it the same way as we've been doing. So I've got root 8 times by root 5, which is 8 times 5. So that becomes root 40. Again, this can be simplified to the square root of 4 times by 10, which is 2 root 10. We could also have simplified the root 8 first. So simplifying root 8, this just becomes the square root of 4 times by 2, which is 2 root 2. I can then do my multiplication. So I've got 2 root 2 times by root 5, which is 2 times by the square root of 2 times by 5, which is 2 root 10. Either way is perfectly acceptable. Try and do the one that you're more comfortable with. The next example then, root 3 times by root 3, this just becomes the square root of 3 times 3, which is the square root of 9, which is 3. This is quite a good example to try and remember, as the root of any number times by the root of the same number just gives that original number. So we can generalise here of root A times by root A equals A. So therefore root 2 times root 2 is 2, root 5 times root 5 is 5, etc. The last one then, this is 5 times by root 6 times by root 2. So we've got 5 times by the square root of 6 times 2, which is 5 times root 12. Again, the root 12 can be simplified. So this becomes 5 times by the square root of 4 times by 3, which is 5 times by 2 times by root 3, which is just 10 root 3. Always make sure, as I've said earlier, to try and simplify your surds if possible. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Go ahead and pause the video and see how you get on. So here are the answers to those questions. I hope you got on okay. I'm just going to highlight the bottom two questions here. If these are ones that you could possibly have gone wrong, just remember that 4 times root 3 squared is 4 root 3 times 4 root 3. And root 3 cubed is root 3 times by root 3 times by root 3. That might help you if you've gone wrong anywhere. The last part of this video is just a slight extension on multiplying surds. We're going to try and use brackets to try and take it onto that next little step. So looking at the first example, we've got 5 times by 3, which is 15. We've then got 5 times by root 2, so I'm going to be adding on 5 root 2. Root 2 times by 3, so add on 3 root 2. And then root 2 times by root 2, which is just 2, so I'm adding on 2. Then just got to simplify this by collecting the terms together. So I've got 15 plus the 2, which is 17. And I've then got 5 root 2 plus the 3 root 2, which is 8 root 2. The next example is very similar. We've just got a negative in here that we've got to be careful with. So I've got 3 times by 5, which is 15. 3 times by negative root 2, which is minus 3 root 2. The root 2 times by 5, so plus 5 root 2. And then the root 2 times negative root 2, so we've got minus 2. Again, I'm going to collect these terms together. So 15 take away 2 is 13. And minus 3 root 2 plus 5 root 2 is positive 2 root 2s. The next example, again another one just with some negatives to be careful of. So we've got 4 times by 4, which is 16. 4 times by minus root 5, which is minus 4 root 5. The minus root 5 times by 4, so minus another 4 root 5. And minus root 5 times by minus root 5, which gives me a positive 5. Again, collect these together, so we've got 16 plus 5, which is 21. Then minus 4 root 5 minus 4 root 5, which is minus 8 root 5. The last example then, just yet one more question that's a little bit more tricky because of the 3 root 2, but it's just following the same process. So we've got 5 times by 4, which is 20. 5 times by minus root 2, which is minus 5 root 2. 3 root 2 times by 4, which is plus 12 root 2. And then 3 root 2 times by minus root 2, which is actually 3 times by minus 2, which gives us minus 6. Again, I'm going to collect these together. So we've got 20 take away 6, which is 14. And then minus 5 root 2 plus 12 root 2, which is plus 7 root 2. Some more questions for you to have a go at. Go ahead and pause the video and see how you get on. Okay, so here are the answers to those questions. I hope you got on okay. This time I have put my working out in there as well, just so you can see where these have come from. Again, I know this video is a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but I hope you find it worthwhile. Good luck with your studying. See you soon.